Hey guys, welcome to the last episode of this podcast. We will be listening to an interview that discusses the Arab and Muslim community.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam and I'm going to be interviewing Dunya.
Hi everyone, my name is Dunya and I am currently a sophomore here at Montclair majoring in biology.
Well, Dunya, can you tell me about a community that you are a part of?
Absolutely. So I'm actually part of two communities. I'm part of the Arab and the Muslim community here at Montclair. It's important to clarify that these two communities are distinct identities for me, though they do often overlap. Being Arab relates to my ethnicity, my cultural heritage, my language, and a deep-rooted history of the traditions. Meanwhile, being Muslim is my religious identity, my faith, and the spiritual practices that identify my way of life. The distinction is meaningful because not every Arab is Muslim and not every Muslim is Arab. These communities have their unique challenges and strengths, but they both contribute to shaping who I am. It's a dynamic space to be in, and it gives me a sense of belonging in different but complementary ways. I've come to realize that these two communities together form the backbone to my identity, particularly since I've started attending Montclair.
And why is this community so important to you?
Well, these communities are incredibly important to me for a number of reasons, but mostly because they help me reconnect with my roots. Growing up, I never really felt like I had a strong connection to my Arab or Muslim identity. It wasn't until I lived in Palestine for 5 years that I began to gain some understanding of my background, but even then, the experience was somewhat limited because many of the people around me, particularly in school, were still trying to figure out who they were. Their connection to their culture and religion wasn't something they necessarily prioritized, and that environment influenced me too. But when I started attending Montclair, I honestly didn't expect much of a change. I figured life here would be similar to what I was used to, basically being disconnected from my cultural roots. But that shifted dramatically the moment I walked into the prayer room on campus. I went in expecting to pray quietly and just leave, but the experience turned out to be so much more. From the first moment I stepped inside, I was greeted by so many people who were genuinely interested in who I was. They didn't just ask the typical questions you might expect, like, how are you and what's your major? They went deeper, asking things like, where is your family originally from? What does your name mean? How does your culture shape who you are? This level of curiosity and openness was something I hadn't experienced before, at least not in such a genuine way. Arabs and Muslims have this beautiful way of making you feel seen and heard from the very first interaction. There's a kind of warmth and hospitality that comes naturally to them. I wasn't just welcomed into a space, but I was welcomed into a community that cared about who I am on a deeper level. Since then, every day has been something I looked forward to, because the people I've met through this community have enriched my life in ways I didn't expect and I forever cherish.
That sounds like a really deeply meaningful experience. Can you talk more about the strengths of the community?
Of course, absolutely. One of the most remarkable things about the Arab and Muslim communities is the sense of collective support. There's this unspoken understanding that we all have each other's backs, no matter what. It's not something you have to ask for, it's just there. Whether you're dealing with schoolwork, personal challenges, or even something as simple as needing advice, there's always someone ready to offer their help or encouragement. One thing I've noticed is how much we compliment each other on even the small things. Someone will go out of their way to say, you're doing great, or keep it up, even if it's just about staying focused while you're studying or going to the gym. It's those small words of encouragement that make a huge difference when you're dealing with everyday stress. People genuinely want to see each other succeed, and that's such a powerful feeling. I would also say that another strength is the willingness to teach and share knowledge. I can't tell you how many times I've learned something new, whether it's a different perspective on Islam or a new cultural tradition, just being around people in these communities. Arabs and Muslims are naturally hospitable, and generous in their sharing their time, their food, their knowledge, whatever it could be. Even without asking, they'll offer to help. It's like they're always thinking about how they can make your life a little easier or teach you something valuable.
That sense of community support and hospitality really seems to shine through. However, every community faces challenges. What are some challenges that your community faces?
Well, unfortunately, as strong and supportive as these communities are, we do face some serious challenges, especially when it comes to racism and, in more extreme cases, genocide. It's heartbreaking, but many times these issues are ignored or intentionally hidden from the public view. For instance, when people hear the words Arab or Muslim, they often associate those identities with negative stereotypes. A lot of the times, these perceptions are not only false, but also incredibly harmful. Many people, without knowing much about our lives, assume things that are dehumanizing. I've heard Arabs and Muslims being referred to as quote-unquote animals, and I've witnessed how people avoid us simply because of these labels. There's this immediate connection in some people's minds between Islam and terrorism, or between Arabs and violence. These are incredibly damaging stereotypes that have very real consequences for us. Whether it's through systematic racism, daily microaggressions, or even just being looked at differently, it all adds up. What makes this even more frustrating is that the media often doesn't cover the struggles we face. Whether it's active violence against Muslims or Arabs, or larger geopolitical issues like the genocide and occupation that some of our countries endure. It's rarely discussed on mainstream platforms. A lot of the times the stories are buried or presented in a way that doesn't tell the full truth. We live in a world where some lives are treated as less important than others, and it's heartbreaking to see that play out, especially when it hits so close to home. But even in the face of these challenges, I believe that there is hope, and that the key to it all is education. We need to start informing ourselves and others about what's really going on in the world. It's not enough to just watch the news and take everything at a face value. We need to dig deeper, understand the context, and share what we've learned with those around us. If more people took the time to educate themselves and challenge their preconceived notions, I truly believe that we can make a difference. It's a long road, but it's not impossible.
You really shared some profound insights. It's inspiring to hear how your community supports each other despite challenges you face. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I just want to say that being part of the Arab and Muslim communities have been one of the most enriching experiences of my life. The strength, the hospitality, the warmth I found here are unmatched. Yes, we face challenges, but I believe the love and support we have for one another will help us overcome them. My hope is that by sharing our stories and educating others, we can build a world where people are judged by their actions and character, not by the labels society assigns them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's been a pleasure hearing about your community and the powerful connections you've made.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great opportunity to reflect on on what these communities mean to me, and hopefully share a perspective that others can learn from.
Wow, that was definitely an inspiring interview conducted by Adam and his interviewee. I definitely have to say that I was unaware that being Arab and Muslim were different. I was under the assumption that they were the same thing, but it was good to be informed that they are actually two separate, like they are their own communities. I thought it was very inspiring to hear that the interviewee was able to find her reconnect with her roots now that she's here at school, and get back in touch with both the Arab and Muslim communities. Some of the strengths that she talked about were very similar strengths that are in the Hispanic community, such as hospitality, support, always having each other's back, which I think is a great thing to have in a community. I think it's always good to be there for one another, so it's good to know that it's very prominent in this community.
Yeah, I like how she made the distinction between Arabs and Muslims, as I definitely think that's something that not many people know, as Muslim is the religion, while Arab is just an ethnicity. So I'm glad she noted that distinction, and I'm also glad for her that she has a lot of support and sense of belonging with other Arabs and Muslims at Montclair. It's good for everybody to have that sense of support from people who share a similar identity with them. And I like how she talked about her experience at the prayer room. I didn't know that Montclair had that, but it was great to learn. And I appreciate her for talking about the prejudice and Islamophobia that people in her community go through. It was very great that she brought more awareness to that, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think that in the news today, especially, people just tend to look down upon anyone who is Muslim or Arab, and it's just not right at all. Obviously, things have happened, but they're in the past, and just because those group of people, did that doesn't mean everyone's like that, and I just think it's very wrong to create a stereotype based off of just one event that has happened, when in reality these people back in their home country are facing genocide every day, and have been. There's an occupation going on, and it has been going on for I think a couple years now, and there just doesn't seem to be any end in sight. And I just think that people really need to open up their hearts a little bit more and really educate themselves on these issues that this community faces.
We are approaching the end of this discussion. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it all as much as we did. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you learned a lot. And yeah.